Four stories, four possibilities of behaviours that may or may not have happened to these people. We're framing it through the lens of discrimination. So Craig is experiencing a whole lot of Irish jokes, and he just kind of feels like he's over it, right? That he's done with the Irish jokes. Is he being discriminated? So this is your group over here, Craig. What did they say? What was the general consensus?
Well, we're just sort of talking about, trying to define a little bit more around, whether jokes just sort of directed towards me, and I guess I was sort of saying, well, it was my interpretation that they were just directed towards me, but I don't know, they may have not been, but I kind of felt that they were.
Okay.
I didn't ask them to stop.
All right, so in order for Craig to be able to say legally, because we discriminate all the time in life, don't we? Discriminate just means to choose one pathway over another. But in law, we have a very specific definition around discrimination. And that definition has three components. So bearing in mind that intention doesn't matter, just like for the other definitions we've talked about this morning, but we need to see that someone is treated a certain way. Yeah? And the way that the law says they have to be treated in order to say that it's discrimination is that they've been treated less favourably. And they've been treated less favourably because of one of these protected categories that you see written up here. So we need all three components present in order to say that Craig has been treated less favourably. So is there a category that you can see on the board that would tick off the box for Craig in terms of his complaint? Race. Yeah, race, that's right. So race includes our ancestry, includes our ethnic background, and includes language as well. So has he been treated less favourably? And that's the bit that starts to get a bit tricky. So the laws provide protection in three broadly speaking spaces. In how we are hired, so we can't be treated less favourably in the hiring process, in the reasons for our dismissal, and in what happens in our workplace around opportunities, training, promotion, and other forms of treatment. So has he been treated less favourably? Well, my sense is I haven't got enough negative treatment, right? The jokes may not be appropriate, but I don't think they fit within the space of discrimination. Could they fit within another definition that we've been looking at today? So it could be bullying, right? Repeated, inappropriate behaviour that leads to a risk of harm. In order for it to be bullying, the court would have to be satisfied that the Irish jokes are deemed to be inappropriate or unreasonable. Yeah? And so I suspect we would need something else. So something about they do it to him, he's made it clear that actually he doesn't want them to, he feels uncomfortable about it, that sort of thing. Yeah? In itself, I think that is probably not enough. There was a case recently where a woman made a complaint, said it was discrimination because her boss called her a Kiwi. Right? And the court said, no. It's kind of a reasonably socially acceptable term for someone from New Zealand. Yeah? So it wasn't sufficient. So I'm going to say, do I think it's discrimination? No. Might be bullying in certain circumstances. What about Barbara? So she's really keen to contribute to the project and she's been told that she can't contribute. Has she been discriminated against? So do we have a category of protection? Yeah, so family status would be treated less favourably because of who you are related to. Great. So has she been treated less favourably because of her relationship with her husband? It's not clear, is it? So I would be saying for Barbara, there's a long bow that she's drawn to come to that conclusion. And we would definitely be needing more evidence to fill in the gaps, right? So firstly, I need evidence that her husband got the job instead of Bob. Yes, that's one bit I need, and that there's some animosity or something else happening there. Then I need some evidence that what she's offering to contribute to is part of her normal job description. So part of within the realm of what she would normally be doing, but she's been shut down from doing this because of her connection to her husband. So there's a few hops that need to be done to join the dots before we could say that. At the moment, I would say I don't have enough. I don't have enough. Yeah. What about Jacob? He's been told that his credit card needs to be audited. because of him slipping something into his pocket and forgetting to pay. Is that sufficient to be considered discrimination? And if so, what's our category?
Spend conviction.
Yeah, good. So, well done. So spend conviction, that's an unusual category. Like, oh, look at that, they've put that one in there, right? Where did that come from? So spend conviction, there's two ways that someone can get a spend conviction. Either they get a criminal record and they ask the court to not record it at the time of conviction. That's what Jacob did and he got it. Or the other option, which is probably more common, is usually someone's record is wiped 10 years post the date of their conviction. But the point is that once you have a spent conviction, your employer cannot take it into consideration. Has he been treated less favourably?
Yes.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? He's probably the most obvious one because the employer actually said, saw it in the paper and that's why. That's lovely. That doesn't happen very often in real life, you know, when they do that. I remember a woman coming to me once and saying, oh, that happened to me. So she was pregnant. The owner of the business said we need to downsize, said this to the manager, you have to get rid of someone. The manager went to her and said, well, you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby anyway, so I'm just going to get rid of you a bit earlier. Yeah, that's right. And she was like, that's unlawful. And so she made a complaint and then they did downsize, but the manager got rid of instead of. Okay, but it's very unusual that it's so outspoken, upright, that you'd have that evidence. But for Jacob it was. So I'm going to say, yes, he has been discriminated against. And what about Megan as our last person? Has she been discriminated against? Has she been treated less favourably? Yes. So what's the treatment that we're saying?
It's more money, I think.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I think it could be. I think it could be bullying. There's another definition in your booklet which we haven't explored today called disability harassment. Yep, page 20 of the booklet. It's from our federal legislation. It's not very often used, but I think it would apply for Megan. So basically, when someone experiences abusive behaviour or taunts or offensive behaviours or insults because of their disability, then they could seek protection under disability harassment. So I think she's got two potential options in that space, but I wouldn't think that one of them is discrimination. Now, that's the legal definition of discrimination, really important for us to be aware of it. More recently, I've been reflecting on a book called Joy, the Book of Joy, actually, and it's a series of interviews between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. Beautiful book, and in the book, obviously, they're talking about joy. But in the book, the Dalai Lama talks about something which made me think of a much more simple and yet I think really profound definition of discrimination that I'm going to share. And what he says, as someone who, you know, in many areas is seen as being godlike, right, holy, he says that before he is anything else, he is human, right? And that he has more in common with everybody because we're all human than he has differences. Yeah? And that once we are human, then we can create all these other subcategories to define us. So we're human and we are of a particular gender, and we are of a particular age, and we are of a particular race. Yeah? But we're always human before we're anything else. Discrimination happens when we take one of those subcategories and we make it bigger than our humanness. Yeah? So suddenly, the race of someone becomes a bigger identifying feature than their humanness. And then I judge that person because of that category. I find this definition so helpful in my life because I have prejudices. I do. I don't like that I have them, but I know that I have them. And I know they're based on life and everything that's happened to me up until this point in time. And so when one of my prejudices raises its ugly head, which it does from time to time, I just keep on going back to this. And I remind myself that the person that I'm currently reacting to is human, and therefore I have more in common with them than I do different. It's a beautiful way of reminding me, and it helps just modify my behaviour. So we're at the point in our workshop where we're not far off finishing. And I want this to be an opportunity for you to pause and reflect on what are you going to take away from everything that we've talked about this morning. I've got to say, we have had some lovely feedback from the people that have done this workshop up until now. They said it's a fantastic workshop. That's lovely, but my response is, this only becomes a fantastic workshop based on what you do with it once you walk out the door, doesn't it? Because this is all about what your behaviours are outside of this room. Yeah? So if you take this and modify something that you might say to someone, maybe it helps you to think a little bit differently before you have that conversation. That you decide to be curious and ask an I've noticed instead of tell someone what you think of it. Right? Then it becomes a brilliant workshop. So as you, and we're going to give you a chance to just have a chat with someone next to you at some point, I want you to think about, so what? What are you going to do with it? And one of the things that you might consider doing is what I call a repair conversation. I'm not good at repair conversations because, as you know, I think I'm right all the time. And so having a repair conversation means I actually have to acknowledge that maybe I did something that contributed to it not going well. But a repair conversation basically just to go back to the person and say, hey, I've been thinking, I've realised, I'm just wondering if I said this or offended you in some way, and I just want to sort it out. Yeah? So you might want to do that. You might want to think about how you can be a good bystander. So you might think, oh, I've never done any of these behaviours that's crossed over into that space of legal. But have I witnessed those behaviours happen and done nothing about it? So if that's been me in the past, what could I do differently now? I'm going to give you 3 options. So you could call it out. If you're a chihuahua, which I still can't say, then you could just say to that person, hey, that didn't look okay what you just said or did. You could say it publicly, you could choose to say it privately to them. Or you could go and tell someone else who's senior, someone that's responsible, has an extra duty of care, so that they can do something about it. Or you can come alongside the person that's just experienced the behaviour and say to them, I just saw that and that didn't look okay with me. How are you? Yeah, so you could choose to take on the role of being a good bystander. So many options for what you want to take away. We're just going to give you a couple of minutes, have a ponder, have a chat with someone next to you about that, and then we'll hand out an evaluation form. Once you complete that form, you can just put it on the chair here, and then we'll be finishing that whole day. So thank you for your involvement and commitment and energy this morning. Thank you.